just sit here on your camera by myself.
Oh yeah. So we've done Welcome to the latest episode of Over a Pint. We're in the lovely Holiday Inn Express in Oshawa because we're both here for the IMBY Emerge tour happening this fall. This is the last one, so you actually can't go, so I don't even know I'm promoting it. Except for next year, you can come to that one. So one of the other speakers here with me is Jagger, so why don't you introduce yourself to everyone?
Yeah, sure. I'm an entrepreneur from Vancouver. Been starting businesses for about 18 years.
Sounds good. So let's crack open the beer. So I'm drinking Hell or High Water.
You've got me representing the West Coast.
Yeah.
West Coast style IPA.
Figured it had to at least have some reference.
Mill Street.
Yeah, which is a Toronto-based
downtown,
one.
Yeah, downtown Toronto, right?
Yeah. I haven't had that one, but normally Mill Street's pretty good. We've never had this one, which is from Ottawa.
I like your glasses.
Yeah, they work out well. You actually get to keep one as a speaker if you want.
Sweet.
Well, cheers. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
No problem. So how long, or when did you start your first company?
In 2000. Yeah, June 2000.
What were you doing?
My business partner and I started a web hosting company. It's called Combustion Hosting. The original idea was sell web hosting to small business owners, people that needed their websites hosted. And back in the day, 2000, nobody knew what a web host was. I didn't even know what a web host was.
I think there's still people that don't know what a web host is.
Yeah, there definitely is. There definitely, yeah. And so we actually, because I had a little business prior to starting that. I was trying to do, long story short, but trying to do advertising on the inside of taxi cabs in Vancouver. And I was trying to figure out a website web host for that business.
Yeah.
And in that business is what I came and met with a friend of mine who went to high school with me and asked Mike about web hosting. He was a bit in the tech space. And anyways, he explained to me what hosting was, why I needed to find a web host. And then I went digging, trying to find a web host that would speak to me in non-techie language and answer my questions. And Mike gave me a list of like stuff I should be looking for. I wanted to pay Canadian dollars and 24/7 tech support, and tech support needed to speak English, not like super techie. And yeah, I couldn't find one. I couldn't find one that solved all of the challenges that I had. And so after back and forth with Mike for a bit, we decided maybe there was an opportunity to start one and focus on people like me, just small business owners that needed a website, needed a web host, and needed help getting it rolling. So that's kind of how we got into it.
How long did you do that for?
So starting 2000, in about 2003, we sold that business into about 2005, but in 2003, we figured out pretty quickly that realtors were easy to find.
Yeah.
And they had no idea as well as to what web hosting was. They knew they needed websites at that point, but they didn't know anything about how it all worked. And so they were easy from a sales point of view to find them because it's like if you call dental offices, you'll get the receptionist. You won't get the dentist who generally makes the decisions for the business. Yeah. But with realtors, as you know, and most people know, realtors are easy to find. Their phone numbers are out there. They want to be found. And so we started chasing that vertical of real estate agents to sell them web hosting.
How, just judged by knowing a lot of real estate agents, how quickly did that turn into them actually wanting the whole website from you too?
They very quickly. So we learned at the beginning we were selling them web hosting packages, like 50 megabytes of space and 2 gigabytes of traffic, and they didn't know what that meant. Yeah. And we realized very quickly that they spoke in the terms of listings. And so, like back, I keep saying back in the day, but it just feels like so long ago. Yeah. When we started, realtors would fax a feature sheet off to their web designer to update the website. Yeah. Right? And it's crazy. And so the web designer would get it, and it's like 48 hours later, they would put it on the website, and the web designer would kind of hold it all hostage because it was hard to do. And there was no CMS back in the day where you could just manage it yourself. And so we ended up building what we originally was called this combustion listings engine. It was a tool to let the realtor manage the listings themselves, to skip the web designer or their web guy. And that's how we we transitioned basically into what became Ubertor. Ubertor's the website platform for realtors, but we went from combustion listings, we changed the name to Ubertor. We stopped talking about megabytes and transfer, and started talking about the number of listings. So if you got less than 10 listings, it's this much per month. If you got 20 listings, it's this much per month. And then, like 2003, we started that. About 2005, we realized the real estate was the best part of the business. Mm-hmm. They didn't call us at 3 a.m, right? We were providing 24/7 tech support for this business. But the realtors were relatively easy. They were more normal hours type people, easy for us to work with, easier for us to find. So we sold off the rest of the business and stuck with the realtors, changed the name, and then, sort of relaunched the whole thing as Ubertor.
And are you still in charge of Ubertor?
No, so we sold Ubertor in 2013.
Yeah.
So we had it basically 10 years. We sold it to a Singapore group, who then it became an Australian public company.
Oh, interesting.
And it's just, I believe, recently sold again.
Okay.
So I don't know if it's still in that pubco or if it's been pushed into some other thing. I don't know.
Completely.
But we're out of it. Yeah, 2013, we sold that one.
That's right. So you got into websites for agents basically 2003, and for 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
What did a website for an agent look like in 2003?
Shockingly similar to what they look like today, right? They're basic stuff. They're listings, they're solds, their about me page, right? Back in the day, they would want to spend money on fanciness, and fanciness would be like flash animation, or remember like flash loading pages.
Yeah.
And it was, I think it was kind of cool then, where I don't know, you wanted people were okay to be entertained for a second by some cool thing happening before the website loaded.
Zip across the screen.
Yeah, some nonsense, but now it doesn't. People just like get to the, get to the thing. Whatever I'm looking for, get me to it. I don't need any of your flash, intros or music or any of that stuff. But they were, basic sites, CMS system that allowed them to manage all the pages. There was blogs built into it. It syndicated the listings off to wherever we wanted it to go. Yeah. Right? We tied in a bunch of video syndication tools so they could start doing videos like this, and then put it in the blog, and then syndicate it out to YouTube and Vimeo and wherever else they wanted to put the video.
So after Ubertor sells, what happened next? Because you're still kind of selling to agents in the industry. Yeah.
So before we sold it, in about 2008, Mike and I, 2008 was the financial crisis, bit of a downturn in everything. And we wanted to outsource our customer service for Ubertor. Mm-hmm. And so we started dabbling with a guy that we had met on Craigslist in the Dominican Republic to do customer service and billing for our Ubertor client base. And so we worked with him for a while, maybe 2007. We liked how that worked, and we were comfortable figuring out how to work with a guy that we'd never met, different time zone, different country, different office, different everything. And so we liked that, and we wanted to do more. And so we decided to figure out how we could expand. And so back, like it's kind of still now, you talk about outsourcing, a lot of it is Philippines and India. My business partner Mike's half Filipino, doesn't speak Tagalog, so he doesn't, it's not super helpful for going into the Philippines. But he has some family there, so we figured we didn't know much about India, we didn't know much about the Philippines, but at least Mike had some family there and was half Filipino. So in 2008, we flew to the Philippines to go and hire 10 or 15 people to be basically customer service team for Ubertor. Yeah. And kind of long story short, the plan was to be there about 60 days, find a bunch of people, staff up a small office, and then come back home. We switched gears while we were there, and we decided if we wanted this, other people like you and lots of other businesses would want this. Yeah. And so we incorporated a Philippine company, and we got into the outsourcing business. Okay. And so we set up an office for about 150 people. The first 10 or so were hired for Ubertor. So Ubertor was the first customer of our outsourcing company. Yeah. And then we grew that business to about 150, where about 100 of them were virtual assistants for realtors. Yeah. And so we would help realtors systemize their businesses, their procedures. Most of them don't have anything documented of how their business works. Yeah. And so it's very hard to offshore some of that work if it's all stuck in your head. So we would show them how to document and how to make steps so that some person somewhere else can facilitate.
And did you have it systemized to the point where like a new client come on, you can almost give them systems you had already worked with other people?
Yeah, because like a realtor gets a new listing, for example, and there's like 50 things they do,
Yeah.
right? Some of them they personally need to do. Some of them just need to be done, right? Someone needs to call the for sale sign people or sign up online to get the for sale sign pounded in the front lawn. I don't think the realtor necessarily needs to do that. It needs to be done. And there's like 30 things like that they don't need to do, right? It's just like getting there, if you're their social media guy, like notifying you, I've got a new listing, here's my budget, do your thing. And so we help them have systems so when a specific activity happened, it triggered their VA in the Philippines to do a bunch of stuff. And it worked out really well. Yeah.
So how, like, are you still doing that company too? No?
No, so we sold, so when, in 2012, so Mike and I originally went to Manila. The plan was to stay like 90 days and come home. I came home after 90 days.
Yeah.
Mike stayed 2.5 years.
Oh, wow.
So he built out the back end of the office while I stayed back in Vancouver and sold the services back into the North American market. One of the big problems that we had with the Philippine office was time, attendance, scheduling, and payroll, right? Most people here, Canada, the US, it's gotten a lot better now in the Philippines, but back in 2008, 2009, there wasn't very many softwares that you would sign up for and run your payroll. Most companies, big companies, do it on Excel documents. And so there's massive fraud that goes on with that, lots of problems. And then there's, in general, Philippine problems of just traffic is really bad. And so employees can be really late because of a flood on the street. They can't get out of their barangay or their neighborhood to get to work. They don't have data on their phone, so they can't communicate. They're just stuck trying to get to work, but they can't tell anybody that they're on their way, they're not on their way, they're stuck, they can't do it. And so we were having a heck of a time with our HR challenges around that. And so we, and the problem was, if one of my employees in the Philippines was late, my customer in Canada or the US would call me, mad at me that their worker's not on time, and there was nothing I could do to fix it. Like with software, at least we can fix the bug. If there's a problem, I can fix it. If a guy's late or we don't know where he is, there's nothing I can do, right? We just gotta wait, and we say sorry to the customer, and then we try and figure out what the challenge was for the employee. But so that's what we decided to take a couple of our engineers and build a payroll platform so we could automate and systemize our own payroll for the Philippine operations. So we did. It's called Payroll Hero. We still have this company. It does time, attendance, scheduling, payroll for the Philippines and Singapore. It does clock in, clock out through facial recognition. So the employee takes a photo of themselves. We get the GPS location from the device. We get their photo. It recognizes that it's the right person, and then it counts that as their start time. It counts in and out for breaks, counts out for end time, and then the system calculates the Philippine payroll, or in this case, Singapore payroll, to make it all happen and run payroll.
That's interesting. And is that just working in the Philippines and Singapore still, or have you brought it out?
No, so the payroll's still there. The time attendance scheduling piece works worldwide, anywhere in the English market. But the payroll piece we've kept in the Philippines and Singapore. And originally it was meant to be an internal tool for our outsourcing company. It wasn't meant to be a business. And we showed it to a few other entrepreneur friends of ours in the Philippines, and they expressed interest in wanting to use it. And so those conversations kind of took us down a path of like, maybe there's more people like us that have a similar problem that we can solve with this software tool. And so we named it Payroll Hero. We incorporated another company, and we rolled out that platform as a separate business to sell to outsourcing companies like ours.
So for an agent looking to outsource, especially like if they're looking at the Philippines or really just anywhere outside of North America, what should they be looking for in someone they're hiring?
The big ones are like, can you communicate with them? Do they understand instructions? Can they follow the instructions? Are they diligent to follow the instructions? A lot of that work needs to be someone who's diligent to follow the steps. Because it's like like most likely if they're overseas, you're sleeping while they're working. And so if they've got a problem or they skip a step, you're not going to find out until 6, 7, 8 hours later. And so having someone who is diligent with following the steps within their business, and helping you document those systems and procedures is all, I think, important pieces. And then of course that you have just a good relationship with that person, that they understand what they're supposed to do, they understand their job, they understand how, like, what we always call it the definition of success. right? So you want them to work towards something. You've communicated exactly what success looks like, so they know how to achieve that success so that everybody's happy.
Yeah. And like, because we've looked at it a bit for like the odd job here and there, and it seems like you're either hiring an agency that has a ton of people under them, or just hiring like one guy. Or
Yeah.
What route do you think would be the best one for an agent to do?
So we struggled with the one person VA thing because of like, so they quit or they're late or whatever, and then it hamstrings the business back here that person's trying to support. The problem with realtors is most of them don't need more than one. One is a lot. One full-time person is a lot. So they don't need 2, 3, 4 of like a team. We tried to do some sharing between realtors. It just doesn't work. So it is it's difficult. But at the end of the day, I think it's worthwhile doing if you've got enough things that you want to get done that your systems and procedures can let that work. If you don't, or you're not organized, don't do it. Hire someone in your office, pay them the North American wage, and just suck it up, because it's you'll have more challenges trying to deal with someone who's not in your office if you're not organized.
Like when we were looking at hiring at one point, we saw wages there range from like $4 an hour to $30, $35 for like, I guess those are pretty high end ones there. What kind of price point do you think it is there for getting someone who's good and reliable?
Depends on the skill set, and it depends on their work environment, right? So the employee's wage is part of what you pay for, but you're also paying for their desk, their rig, their monitors, their chair, their air conditioning or no air conditioning. Like all these things are kind of part of the package. Like we would tour through other outsourcing companies, and some of them is like as wide as your shoulders are as wide as your desk is. Like, and they'll stack them in as many people as they can. Where in our world, everybody had dual monitors, everybody was on a Mac, right? Everybody had a nice chair. We had a gym in the office, literally we bought all this workout gear and treadmills and stuff, and we put it in the space as a way to not only encourage employees to come work with us and stay with us, but we know, like dual monitors, you're 20 to 30% more effective with your role.
I feel handicapped if I'm working on a single screen.
Well, so if you're back on your laptop, people are like, it's harder. And so, so when the wage totally depends, right? If the person's got unbelievable Photoshop skills, you'll pay more. If they're just responding to Zendesk tickets and that's all they do, that's sort of a cheaper, more cost-effective role. So it totally depends on what the realtor's trying to outsource.
So since you don't own that company anymore, if you were an agent was looking for someone to outsource, where would you recommend they go?
I would start with like tools like Upwork or like those things, or even Fiverr, where you could pick off certain tasks. Even just trying Fiverr, you can sign up for Fiverr and get them to get some random person somewhere to create flyers for you, or design an infographic for the social sharing or whatever. And people, I think, will learn really quickly how good they are at delegating instructions, right? Because you have to write it, you have to type it up. This is what I want. So you can't say like make it green, because this green is like a million greens, right? So you'll learn very quickly that you need to be very specific on which green you want.
Color code.
Give the color code, or if it's like Remax red, like link it to the Remax logo so they can see like, oh, okay, that red, right? Because they don't. It's just you're leaving so many things to their subjective design or their subjective ideas, and it doesn't work. So I think testing the waters with a tool like Fiverr, and you spend $10 or $20 on something. And you can do with video editing. You can do with everything.
That's what I found my video editor. So he'll be the one editing this.
Hey.
He's awesome.
And that's like there's a great opportunity for doing that kind of stuff. Like we had a MailChimp thing designed by some guy through Fiverr out of Bangladesh or something.
We got, right now we're using, our video editor is in Romania. He's a television producer for like 20 years. And in no way cheap, we got a developer in Australia, and then we got actually some really good designers in the Philippines, and then Design Pickle, which you're probably familiar with.
Heard it,
Yeah, they're good.
So there's lots of those types of systems, right? That I think is a much quicker, easier step to hiring some person dedicated full time.
So when did you step away from that business?
Payroll Hero started to grow, and it required more time. So I moved over to the Philippines in 2012 with my wife and kids because Payroll Hero customer base is Philippines. At the beginning, it was just Philippines. And so Mike and I basically switched.
Yeah.
Mike came back to Vancouver, and I moved with my family over to Manila and set up the sales and marketing side of the business. And started selling that platform into the Philippines.
Did you learn the local language, or how was that struggle for you?
No, like most people, it makes you feel really dumb. Most people in the Philippines definitely, like, most speak English.
Yeah.
And they're like people on the streets that are completely uneducated. They'll speak 2 and 3 languages, and one of them is English.
Yeah.
Like it literally, I speak 1 language. It makes me feel really dumb. It's like this guy begging for money can bang out 3 different languages, and you have full conversations in English. It's amazing. But yeah, like generally you get around okay with English, right? The Americans ran the Philippines for a while, and they sort of made it or pushed some English into it, right? There's 7,107 islands in the Philippines, and there's different dialects on all these different islands. So like Tagalog's kind of the main one, but like in Cebu there's Cebuano, and there's like, so many Filipinos can't speak all the language. Like they speak a couple of the bigger ones and English. And so it's, you can get along fine with English.
So how long were you living there?
We were in Manila for 2.5 years, and then we moved over to Singapore for 1.5 years. Nice. And then I moved home 2 years ago. So
what made you decide to move home?
Payroll Hero was doing its thing. We had the Philippines rolling, we had Singapore rolling. Didn't necessarily need to be there as much. And we kind of had the pieces in place to let it do what it needed to do, and it's expensive having me over there or foreigners over there. And so it was time. And my son at that point would have been 6, so he was going into grade 1. And so when we moved, my daughter was like 4 months. You probably met my daughter at the last IMRE. Yeah, so she was 4 or 5 months when we moved to Manila. She's just a baby. We took her, and my son would have been 2. And then when we come home, my son was 6, and we had prior to him going into grade 1, we could do anything we wanted. Just rip them out of school, because it's not real. It's like a school, but it's like pre-K or it's kindergarten. But it didn't matter if you're gone to Valley for the weekend or a week or whatever. But once you get into, by that time we were living in Singapore, and international kids have to go to international schools. Mm-hmm. International schools are very expensive, and so you're now thinking annually, not kind of more loosey-goosey. And so when we started looking at okay, now we have to commit for another 12 months at a time, we thought the timing might be right from a schooling point of view as well to go back.
So when you got back, because I know now you're doing other business as well, where did that shift come?
So when we came home, Payroll Hero was doing its thing. We started dabbling on the side with chatbots to see how they could help HR. And so an HR professional of a business gets hammered with questions, right? A bigger business. If you've got 500 employees or 1,000 employees or 10,000 employees, you get asked the same questions over and over and over again, right? How much can I spend on glasses? Is this drug covered? Can I have Friday off? What's the dress code for the Christmas party? I want to file a complaint against some other employee, stuff, right? And they get hit with it a lot of the lower end questions every day, same questions, super monotonous. And so we saw that in Payroll Hero, because they'd say, oh, my pay is wrong, or my question here, or whatever. And so we thought we could dabble in chatbots to figure out, could we help an HR professional with some of those questions. And so when I moved home, we had that sort of rolling and playing with it in the HR space. And so it was just natural for me. I was like, realtors get the same thing. Yeah. Realtors are asked the same questions over and over again. How much is it? Can I have a floor plan? Can I have a feature sheet? In Vancouver, is the oil tank removed? That kind of stuff. But they get hit with it all the time. And many of those inquiries are coming from not qualified people. Like a looky-loo neighbor that's got a simple question, right? That just wants the floor plan or just wants the feature sheet or whatever. And they're just a waste of the realtor's time, but they're taking up some of the time. And so I thought that there was an opportunity to put a chatbot in place for realtors to solve some of those lower end questions, to free them up to do the higher end stuff that they should be doing.
And how long did that take you to build out to like one you were happy with?
We're about a year and a half into that business. I think it was about, I don't know, 6 months.
Yeah.
Right at the beginning, it was rough. It was very simple. It could answer very simple questions, but you couldn't, like, anything you threw at it was marginally outside the box, it would fail.
Yeah.
And so, but we worked with a bunch of realtors that, you know, were willing to and wanting to help us make it better and smarter. And now we've got to the point it's very smart around a very small thing. We're only doing at this moment residential real estate for sale.
Yeah.
Like, we don't do rentals, commercial properties, leases, anything. Like, there's property management. There's lots of angles for us to get into. At this moment, we're sticking strong with that piece, and it works really well. I was just literally getting texts from Jason Steele today about his bot's name is Diamond, and he's like so happy Diamond got him another $600,000 listing customer lead or whatever. And the lady was super excited about how fast he responded. First about how fast the bot was doing what it was doing, and then how fast he phoned her, because the bot texted him to phone her. And the lady, I guess, was very impressed with that and happy with that. And Jason's now telling me, he's like, oh, so I'm going to get him to put in a nice little quote for me.
You need to borrow the video camera.
Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah. And that's what it's supposed to do, right? Because realtors, like, if I'm a realtor, like, my phone's doing stuff right now. If I'm a realtor and I'm doing this with you, I should not be grabbing my phone and be like, oh, like, yeah, it's like $200,000, or here's the feature. I'm doing this right now, right? So whoever is texting me is now waiting, right? And in real estate, like every conference we all go to, it's like if the realtors are not responding within 5 minutes, they've lost it, right? The lead's gone somewhere else. And so the bot is meant to assist in those types of scenarios where it can respond to those certain inquiries.
So the bot, is it one like when they're interacting with it, they know it's a bot, or so they know right away?
Not always. It depends on how they start. So if the consumer says hi, the bot will say, hi, I'm Jen, I'm Steve Jagger's AI assistant, I can help you with, and she tries to like lead you through. If the consumer texted saying, what's the price of Willow Street, one of my listings, one of my fake listings, but if the consumer asked a very direct question, the bot will respond, oh, Willow Street is $1.2 million. And then after, I think, a 5-minute delay, it'll say, by the way, I'm Jen, I'm Steve Jagger's AI. And we didn't used to do that. At the beginning, we would always do the intro, and we found consumers are getting annoyed. It's like walking into any store and asking any question about, like, how much is that shirt? And the salesperson's like, oh, I'm Steve. I work at, whatever, Harry Rosen. It's like, whatever. How much is this shirt? And so we learned that quickly of just like, we need to, if they ask a direct question, answer the direct question. If they come in with a small talk, like hi, or how's it going, or whatever, then we can do the normal intro flow.
So how does it, because like there's messenger bots, you see bots on websites, I believe there's more text message based, like how do you decide which platform, or can you leverage it across multiple?
We do all three. Yeah. So you get the bot when people sign up. So they sign up, they can choose the name of the bot. So which is funny. Sometimes a lot of people hesitate on like, Jesus, like having a baby. It's like a serious moment. They have to decide what the name should be. But they pick their name. It's a real human name: Frank, Susan, Hector, Alejandro, whatever they want. And then they pick a phone number. So the bot has a local phone number for them. So you can have a 416 or 604 or wherever they are in the U.S. And then once they finish the sign up, the system emails them a birth certificate with the bot's details, saying congratulations, your bot's been born. And then the bot immediately texts them saying, hello. But so it can handle SMS immediately. If they pair that same bot to their Facebook page, it can respond in their Facebook page. And then it can pair into, Facebook has a live chat tool you probably know about. Free live chat thing that you could put on any website. If they've paired it to Facebook and then they put the live chat on their website, it's also in there. We've also paired it into Intercom. So if they didn't want to use Facebook's live chat, you can use Intercom live chat. Probably the Intercom is they charge a fee for their live chat tool.
Small for most agents.
No, it's more expensive than our platform. And so we most go into Facebook. It's just some people think like it's not professional, or what if some user's on there that doesn't have Facebook? Then Facebook chat doesn't work if some person's on their website that doesn't have Facebook account.
Makes sense.
But other than that, I think Facebook's the right way to go.
Yeah. So how do you find the business going? Like is it mostly Canada? Are you in the US as well?
Yeah. Because we can deal anywhere in North America.
Yeah.
We've got agents kind of spread around all over the place. We've been heavy concentration, obviously, in British Columbia and Ontario because of doing these events here. And then we were in Inman News a couple weeks ago, and then that just like a whole bunch of people from all over America and some Canadians sign up just from Inman or REM magazine or like that kind of stuff that puts the random people all over the place.
Yeah. And what kind of stats do you have on like conversion rates? And what would, from a chatbot perspective, really be considered a conversion? Is it getting their contact information, or is it getting someone who becomes a client? Like, where from your end is it like this was a successful interaction?
We consider a successful interaction sort of twofold. One is it created the lead. A lead means we gathered the name, the email, the phone number of that user. If they come in on SMS, we already have their phone number. If they come in on Facebook, we already have their name and gender.
Yeah.
And so the bot's smart enough to know if they're on this channel of SMS, it won't ask for your phone number because it knows it already has it.
Yeah.
If they came on Facebook, it won't ask the name. It'll just ask for the phone number and email. And it does it slowly. It won't hammer them with a bunch of questions. It's like if you ask for a photo, it'll say, sure, I'll send you the photo. What's the email address to send it to you?
Yeah.
And if you most people feel like that's a reasonable trade. I do want the photo, so I'll give you my email. And then the bot will send an email, and it BCCs the realtor. If the consumer did say like no, or I don't have an email, or just no, the bot will say, okay, fine, here it is, and it texts the photo anyways.
No.
And so what we consider a lead is, when it's done that, and then there's a whole whack of triggers in the system.
Mm-hmm.
And a trigger could simply be if the consumer's texting or talking to the bot and they said something like, when's the open house? And if the bot doesn't have knowledge of an open house, it'll say, I don't have any open houses or I don't know about the open house for this property, but I can set up a private viewing. Would you like me to do that? And they say thumbs up. Then it'll ask whatever questions it still needs to ask, email or a phone number or whatever. And then that immediately will text the realtor. The bot will text the realtor saying, I've got this guy Frank that wants a private viewing of 123 Main Street. Like basically take it from there.
Yeah.
And then we built a whole back-end platform around confidence rating. So every single thing that comes into the bots, it ranks itself with a confidence rating of how confident it is on the answer that it's responding with. And so anything under a 90% confidence rating notifies my team, and then we look into it as like, what did the guy ask, and what did the bot think he was asking, and why was it not confident in its answer? And then we'll look at that and try and figure out like what did the consumer mean. And sometimes it's just spelling errors, and then it was like so bad that the bot couldn't figure it out, right? And so we had a guy, a few months ago put $? And that was his way of saying price. They're like, how much? And the bot didn't like it, and so now it likes it. So we can train it to be like, that means how much is the property or whatever.
And how does it handle like if they ask multiple questions in a single text?
So we built functionality around that for the more common questions that are asked double-barreled.
Yeah.
How many beds and baths is a common double-barreled question, or what's the price and how many bedrooms?
Yeah.
It'll get most of those. If you're asking like super wonky things like, can I have the oil tank certificate and when's the open house? It'll usually get one or the other and respond and miss the other one.
Okay.
And people are reasonable enough. They know they're talking to a bot. They'll just re-ask the question that it missed.
Yeah. And is that why you found you identified it as a bot?
Yes.
For that reason that they know it's...
Yeah. No different than walking into any retail store. You see employee and it says on the name tag, it says trainee.
Yeah.
Right? The stores do that on purpose. So we're all, like, as the consumer, we give that person marginally more room to just be slower on the computer, slower at the cash register, slower at the whatever, because they're new.
Yeah.
And so it's the same reason we do with the bot. Is just people get less frustrated, we've found, if they know they're talking to a bot.
So what do you find then is the average conversion rate for the amount of people who engage with the bot versus who becomes like name, email, and phone number?
I've got the data. We haven't sort of pulled the data. We've been more concerned with the confidence rating has been the focus thus far. We just want people to be happy with the responses.
Yeah.
And then the next stage would be to move into increasing...
Optimizing.
Yeah, making it get the lead details faster, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So from the perspective of like you're working on the confidence rating, how much time is then put into like the copy that's being used by the bot to help convert and things like that?
Tons. So we test it manually before we build anything. We literally test with our phones. We build out a script and what we like we call the happy path. What do we want? What do we want the bot and the consumer to do? What's our perfect path? Yeah. And then we build the yes, the no, and the rude path of like what if this deviates, what would that look like? And then we build the right field. Yeah. And so like it's like the out of right field type, just random something happened. And so we build for those 5-6 paths. And then we start testing it manually to see how it feels. Because the way you think about it as a conversation, and then when you're actually typing it with your thumbs, you're more condensed than when you're verbally talking about it. And then we'll build the base features, and then we'll run it into a handful of the bots first to see how it goes, and see what the bot does, what it thinks the right answers are, and then we can start training it to be smarter and better.
So if an agent wanted to incorporate this into the business, how do they go find out more about that part of your business?
So they can go to IMRE.ca. It stands for Instant Messaging Real Estate. We didn't get very... we didn't really dig into the name much.
Just sell homes.
Yeah. So yeah, it's imre.ca, and you can sign up for a bot. There's a free version of it. There's a paid version. Paid version is $10 a month.
So what's the difference between free and paid?
The paid one, you can see the conversations in real time. There's a control panel. You can log in and just watch the bot do what it does, and the bot will manage your listings for you. So it'll add your listings and give you some more functionality around listings. Yeah. The free one doesn't do that.
Makes sense. And how many free users, or if you have the data, like how many free users do you find end up converting to the premium?
Quite a few. This is why we designed it this way. Most come in on the free because it's just a low impact way to start, and then our customer service team literally will phone them, or we text with them from our customer service line saying, how can we help? And here's the benefits of doing this, and here's a promo code maybe to upgrade and get 1 month free. And we find that's very effective.
So for those who don't use the Facebook side and are mostly in the text message, where are they putting it to get the people who are to start interacting with the bot?
Sign toppers on their for sale signs are a big one. Even for me, I walk by a for sale sign and you see the realtor's website or a phone number. Many times not even the realtor's website. Yeah. Like I don't know what they're thinking of. Like what do they want me to do? Phone the guy or the person to most likely get the receptionist at the office to ask. Like it's just such a slow, drawn out thing. It's way easier for me to. One would be to go to realtor.ca app, and if I'm standing there or I'm in the car outside of the property, it'll bring it up because of the geolocating, and there's the property, but the realtor doesn't have me as a lead. Right? Now I got information, the basics that I wanted, price or whatever I was looking for, how many bedrooms, but the ones we have lots of realtors that put sign toppers that basically text, hi to this number, or text floor plan to this number, and then the bot immediately gets the consumer's cell phone number, and then it can push whatever information they want. But it also creates the lead for the realtor. Right? It's just making their for sale signs a little bit smarter.
And how have you found it? Because I know like one of the big issues, especially with real estate tech, is the adoption early on of getting agents to know how to leverage it the right way. Because like there's a lot of tools that work really well and are great in theory, but they can never get the adoption even when people sign up for it.
Yeah. So I guess for us, there's two sides. One is the realtor doesn't have to do very much. If they pair it to Facebook, they could technically not do anything else, and the bot will just do what it does, responding in Facebook for them automatically. If they started taking the bot's phone number and putting it on the sign toppers and putting it into their marketing, then they're getting another channel and it does more. So we get the immediate agents, especially when you sign up, because it pushes you to pair with Facebook. It's like one of its first things it tries to get them to do. A lot of people do that. Like a very high percentage choose to pair it with Facebook. And then we do stuff on our end to push them into one-on-one webinars or group webinars or recorded webinars to see like the power, because the system, it can answer thousands and thousands of questions. It's amazing. Yeah. That's awesome. Right? And now we just tied it into Zapier, so you can have the bot talking to some consumer. It grabs the email address, for example, and it'll grab the email, push it into Zapier, and push it into your MailChimp. And now that email address that the bot just got is sitting in your MailChimp
You can
list
start
ready to go.
automation
Yeah,
campaign
for
there.
you or whoever would handle that, but it's magically happening. Or into Follow Up Boss or Trello or
Any of the
whatever they're
apps,
using. Yeah.
That's great. And another interesting thing away from that is I actually heard you talking about it at Emerge. So you have like a really interesting investment platform for real estate, and I probably won't do justice trying to describe it, so I'll just ask you what is it?
So the third company, so we've got these 3 active companies. Payroll Hero, IMRE is the chatbot one, and then IMBY. They sound related, but they're not. It's just IMBY stands for In My Backyard. And so it's a crowdfunding micro investment platform into real estate. And so that business came about because like my business partner Mike and I invest in real estate, and we've done a couple deals where we're like the limited partners behind developers in Vancouver, and we've talked with some of our employees about like how this works and the rates of return the developer gets versus what normal consumers have no idea how much fat is in the deal, and yeah, we had a conversation came up with one of the LP deals that we were looking at doing. One of our employees wanted in. He had a smaller amount of money to place into he had $10,000 that he wanted to invest into this deal, and the minimums were significantly higher than that. And the reason is just because there's a lot of work to take somebody's money. You sign the documents, got to go to a notary or a lawyer.
25 to 50 minimum, isn't it?
25,000 to 50,000, yeah. And usually with the developer, the minimum's like 750,000 they want per investor. And so there's all these roadblocks into enabling smaller investors to get into the market, right? And in real estate, you're either 100% in or you're 100% out. Generally, like yes, there's REITs and stuff like that, but for the vast majority of people, you either own your property and you own all of it, or you own nothing and you rent. And so what IMBY is designed for is to enable people to get into the real estate market with no barrier to entry. So you can invest in properties for as little as $1 through the platform. Like the first property went on the platform was a property in Trout Lake in Vancouver, on the east side of Vancouver. It was listed for $1.638 million. It's sold out. There's 290 some odd investors in that specific property, and these are people that like 33% of them are millennials. The next 33% is whatever the group is above millennial, but enables people to invest $5, $50, $500. We had one person coming off a Facebook ad and put $50,000 in. But it's just we wanted to lower the barrier to entry to enable people to invest in real estate.
And what do you find is like so far the average investment people are doing when they do invest?
So that property was about $5,000 average.
So how does it work from the perspective of you have all these people investing in the property, who lives there?
We rented it out. So it's a renter.
So it becomes an income property.
Yeah, so the first property, because of what we're working through with security commissions, the first property is a redevelopment. So it's a single family house, and in Vancouver it's not, I don't know if it's normal in many other jurisdictions, but you can take a single family house in Vancouver, renovate it or demo it, and put a duplex in the front, a laneway house in the back, stratify the 3 units, and sell them off individually. And so that's the plan for that first property. And so investors that put their money in, their money's locked up for 3 years while the development happens. And then when the properties are sold, that money goes into the single corporation, and then a single dividend goes out to all investors. That's not the normal way going forward.
How is it different than, and I'm sure it is, I'm just thinking about it. How is it different from say a syndicated mortgage?
Because this is not a mortgage. There's no mortgage on the property.
So it's just entirely...
You own $5 of that property. So the going forward model, now that we've worked through a lot of the legal hoops that we had to jump through to make this all happen, it was like big technical and legal innovation to make it all work. The plan sort of going forward on the new properties coming onto the platform are all, IMBY will own 51% of them. It'll sell off 49%. And so investors will be like, you could take $1,000, pick a specific property on our platform, invest $1,000 or $500 or $5 in that specific property.
And are they collecting their percentage of the rent?
Yes, you're the landlord for your $5 or $50 or $5,000 or whatever you've put in.
And if an issue comes up like $50,000 repair, And then that's also then just split through.
So IMBY, because IMBY will sit as the 51% majority shareholder of the property, it will run the property management, it will run, choose the renter and all that sort of stuff. And pick properties that make sense for us to make it all work.
And then IMBY would pick up like 51% of the cost of repairs, 49% goes to the investors?
No, the investors will never have another cost.
Okay.
Right? Because it's not. We don't think it's fair if some person who's like got $500 and that's all I've got to invest to potentially get called later for more money. We wouldn't. It's not that you wouldn't need to do that.
So how does it work if repairs are needed?
If there was a major repair that needed to be done, you would issue more shares.
Okay.
Right? You'd sell more shares into the property.
Yeah. And how many properties right now are on the platform?
So the first property is sold out. The Trout Lake property is done. There's an Atlanta property on it, and there's a Vernon property on it.
Atlanta,
Georgia?
Atlanta?
Yeah.
Oh wow. So you're international now.
Yeah.
So how
we only enable right this minute. We're enabling Canadians to buy this. Anybody except for Quebec, because Quebec has rules around French, and we don't do that yet.
Yeah.
We will, but we're not there yet.
So how long did it take you to deal with all the Security Exchange Commission stuff?
This business started in January, so it's been fast. But yeah,
that's exciting.
Very exciting.
Yeah, that's fun.
It'll change the game in how real estate deals are structured.
Yeah.
Right? You'll be able to, like, we're basically enabling everybody in this hotel now, everyone would be able to invest in real estate.
Yeah.
And prior to a business like IMBY, that's not true.
Is it only residential, or you eventually move it into the commercial space as well?
The Atlanta property is commercial.
Yeah.
It's a building with a bunch of rented residential units, but considered commercial.
Yeah. So would you get in at like the development end financing?
These ones are all long holds.
Yeah.
Is the model. So not a development like the first Trout Lake one, and we just did that one because we wanted to get started.
Yeah.
That's not the main. The main business is to buy some property. Allow investors to invest up to 49%. So we sell off 49% of it to them. And now all of these smaller investors have their slice of that specific property.
Makes sense.
Like imagine you put $1,000 into, I'm from Vancouver, so my reference points are all Vancouver, but probably the same for Toronto. If you put $1,000 into any property in Toronto or any property in Vancouver, it doesn't matter, like the worst property you can think of 20 years ago, you've made good money.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what we're trying to do is there's a lot of people that have now been priced out of the market because they weren't able to participate in these real estate markets.
And how easy is it for someone to then sell their shares if, say, they needed their cash?
And so that's kind of the golden goose of the business is the secondary market, is enabling people to buy and sell their shares, their piece of their property through the platform.
Makes sense.
And so that's what we're building is that liquidity.
So then, like, you guys are then, like, at the IMBY side, taking the risk of, like, the property, like, it's vacant, like, tenant moves out, it's empty for 3 months, that's on your end, that's the risk?
Yeah, but if you think about it, not really, because there's no mortgage.
True.
So the traditional, that's what I mean, like, we're changing how real estate deals are structured. Like the Trout Lake house, there's no mortgage sitting on that property.
Yeah.
We put a renter into that property because in Vancouver it takes a year or whatever to do, get the plans approved. We rented out the house to some family, and after it was rented, we told the guys, like, by the way, this is the first house on this IMBY platform, and here's what the whole thing is. Yeah. That night, that guy went and invested into that house, which is the house that he just rented, which is that's not normally a thing.
Yeah.
Right? You can't invest in the property that you just rented. It's like
so, and I don't even maybe it's in the works, but like hypothetically, like if he's in there and he eventually wants to own. Is there an option where he could be like, anytime share comes up, buy it?
Yes.
Goes up there.
Just like an open market.
Yeah.
Just like you're buying and selling your Apple shares or Amazon shares.
And where would it come into the point where IMBY might then sell it off?
Depending on how the market goes, what the what the need is, what it looks like. There'll be mechanisms in place to allow for that.
And is there any point in there where, like, especially in the sales side, or you're buying houses, that like real estate agents are still in play there, or is this something separate from?
No, and this is why I'm here. I think at IMRE is that yes, we think real estate agents are very much involved. It's just different.
Yeah.
Right? They're like if I wanted to deploy $25,000 into the Toronto area, I don't really know much about Toronto. Yeah. Like I've never lived here. I've been there a bunch, but I don't know the neighborhoods. I don't know them at all.
Yeah.
And so if I thought I wanted to deploy $25,000 to invest in Toronto, I would, through our model, I would like to use a realtor that would say, or a real estate professional that would basically say, all right, here, break it down to what, $1,000 across 25 houses? 5 houses at 5,000? Like, I don't know, what's the right move? Is it all single family houses? Are we doing condos? And that professional's advice would be rewarded with some sort of commission structure, which is what
You're working on that now, or is that actually in place already?
No, it'll be, we're putting it now. Yeah. And so the idea would be to enable those realtors to make money on this. It's the same way of selling real estate, just different.
So from their perspective of, because now you're kind of getting into the, SEC stuff, like what's different from them from an operating standpoint versus
the realtor?
Yeah, like, because now they're like advising an investor almost. Like, I know there's a lot more regulations around that.
Yeah, it's a different license.
Oh, so they have to get a completely different license on top
it's
of
not a real estate license. It's a securities license.
So could someone with a securities license pay a referral fee to an agent, so like they almost partner up?
Potentially, if they're right. It depends on how it goes. I think there's a model where real estate agents will figure out what the right way for them to, what we think would be the right way for them to participate in selling that security.
Yeah. Do you want another beer? Do we have time? I'm not even sure what time it is.
6:04. We got to be downstairs in 10 minutes.
Crack another beer.
I can, sure. But yeah, so that's the idea. Like, I think the reason I think I'm here for these Emerge events is to talk a little bit about, because we're very new. This is all very new. And I explained at the beginning, it's like, and we're not the only people working on it. We think we're the first live.
Yeah.
Enabling an investor to get in for as little as $1. We can't find anybody else anywhere in the world doing it. That's not to say, it's like a caveat, that's not to say that there isn't some company that is live right now that just hasn't got any media exposure that we just can't find on the internet, but they are doing it in their city.
Yeah.
That very well could be the case. But we're not the only ones. There's tons of companies working on this.
Yeah.
And so it's just going to be a new way of real estate transactions.
So how do you think for you guys, like with other people doing on it, is going to be like kind of that path to success where you're getting out there ahead of everyone and doing it faster, making sure like you become the platform?
The global real estate market's $217 trillion, right? Mm-hmm. Residential real estate is 75% of that. Yeah. I see a place where there's going to be a few big wheels in this business, right? There'll be somebody dominating Hong Kong, right? Singapore, Russia, right? Like China. You can go on and on with these, and these markets are big. You can make a big, great business out of just one market, and so there'll be lots of players. One of them will consolidate, but who knows? It'll be interesting to see how it all plays out.
Zillow just come in and
well, Zillow is maybe
completely different,
but they're like a North American-based business right now, right? There's a lot of big players elsewhere that are in the real estate space in other countries, right? That it's going to be interesting to see how it goes, right? It's just but it's coming. Right, like Kevin O'Leary was talking on MSNBC a few months ago about a New York hotel that's going to be.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, like 25% of it's going to be sold off to investors. I think they said $100 or $200 per investor. Yeah. But he didn't say the hotel name. He missed, like, he skipped a bunch of stuff because he wasn't allowed to say it. Mm-hmm. But it very much sounded like what we're talking about, right? And that's. Cutting up a property into micro shares and having pieces available for smaller investors.
So how do you because you got Payroll Hero going, you have IMRE going, IMBY going. How do you divide your time appropriately across three businesses, and two of them are borderline brand new?
Yeah, my main focus is IMRE, the chatbot company. Yeah. And so Payroll Hero, we've got a team in place, a general manager who runs it. Mm-hmm. Right, that company started in whatever it was, 2012. And so I sit on the board and just do that stuff. But my main focus is IMRE, and then I pick up some tasks in IMBY that sort of fit my world and where.
Is that the same partner from
Mike? Yeah, Mike and I.
So it's just so have you guys basically been partners the whole time in all the businesses?
But we have investors in each company.
Okay.
Different investors across each company.
Yeah. So if an agent wanted to get involved in IMBY, what would be their next steps?
The best move for them this minute would be to go to IMBY, go to the website. It's imbyx.com, IMBYX.com,
Okay.
and sign up. You don't have to buy anything, but just sign up for an account. Because as we launch properties, they'll be launched first to the people that have accounts before it goes public.
Yeah.
And then, and so at least they're in and paying attention. They're able to pay attention if they want to properties that are coming onto the platform. We're working on now as to how the more formal relationship will work in the coming months. But
how difficult is it to get their securities license to be able to sell it directly? Like, do you know what that process looks like?
yeah, a bit. We're working on it to figure out what, like, because there's lots of different versions of the licenses depending on the province or America. Like, we're trying to figure out what are the pieces that are required, what are the nice to haves.
Yeah.
Half the thing is that how a commission is paid, or what the type of commission is.
Yeah.
There's lots of different rules, and so we're still navigating it.
Interesting. So if people want to get in touch with you, learn more about any of your different things, or just say, hey, what's the best way for them to reach out to you?
You can go to StephenJagger.com. So it's Stephen with a PH, Jagger.com.
So do you see yourself starting more companies?
No, not right now. No.
This is it? You
We got a lot happening. It wasn't meant to be this way. But,
This
how life works.
IMBY's smart.
Yeah, IMBY's cool. Like, it'll be a game changer. And forget IMBY itself.
Yeah.
The model is going to change everything.
Definitely. Because I know a bit about that side. That's what I was asking about Syndicate Mortgage. My brother used to work for Fortress, which is having their own separate issues, if you're familiar with them at all. But yeah, they raised a ton of money for, so many people want to invest in real estate, and they were, for them it was $25K minimum, and they had there was a sales force of 200 people raising, I think before the RCMP raid that shut them down, they'd raised $980 million.
Yeah.
People.
There's a lot of demand for real estate.
Yeah.
Right? It's a safer asset.
Yeah.
I can't remember the university did a report of the last 150 years. Real estate has performed at 7%. The stock market's just below it.
Yeah.
But real estate's better across a long period of time. But yeah, and it's generally set up thus far that's just not fair. You're like I said at the beginning, you're either in or you're out, and that's it. Right? In Vancouver and Toronto and Singapore and Hong Kong and many places like that, it's almost impossible. Even New York. Yeah. Right?
Well,
most people that live in New York don't live in New York. And if they do, they rent for sure.
And might have paid to take it $10,000 to get that rental.
Yeah. And that's become commonplace there.
Yeah.
And so it's just a matter of trying to figure out ways to, enable technology to help change it.
Investors for IMBY, is that to buy the 51% of the properties you're picking up? Or is that to build just the platform? Or both?
Say it again, investors.
So the investors you guys have with IMBY.
Oh, the people in the mothership, the corporate.
Basically, that money, are you using that to buy the 51% shares in the new properties you're picking up?
Yeah, both. Both, and run the business itself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How big's the team at IMBY?
Small, 7, I think.
All in Vancouver? Or?
Yeah.
That's exciting.
Yeah, everybody should go. Everybody should, all Canadians should just go and even just sign up.
Yeah.
And just see what's coming on. And then put $10 in, or $5, or $3, or $1. just to be dabble and see how it feels, and what's it like to own some random property in some place.
Is there anything in the system that's you owned $1 for a year? Now, that's going to be hey, now you're $2. That's built in?
Yeah.
So what do you use for that valuation?
So we haven't launched that piece yet, but there's 3 pieces that will come down to it. There'll be whatever the government assessment is, in BC assessments. It's a number. It's not necessarily right, but it's a number that's mathematically done across the whole province, across every property. And then there's what realtors are doing in similar properties in the similar time around that specific property, and so that's another metric. And then if you're trying to sell your $1,000 share and you think it's worth $2,000 and I'm willing to buy it and I think it's worth $2,000, and we both have access to the assessment number and the what the realtor community is doing, and me and you come to an agreement, well, we just made the market, right? That becomes it's just like selling my Apple shares.
Yeah.
Right, I could sell my Apple shares and say I want $5,000 a share, and nobody will buy them, right? Because they'll just sit there. I can put them for sale, but they'll just wait, right? Or I can sell them at market, and at market they'll just have to, like, somebody will buy them literally instantly because there's someone else also trying to buy at market.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how it works.
And then your goal is basically like collect a fee on each of those resales.
Eventually, yeah.
Yeah. Makes sense. Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I really appreciate you coming on the show. It was a lot of fun.
No problem. Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in, and stay tuned for next week when we will have a guest that I have not organized or set up anything with, so we will see what happens next week. Thanks for watching.
Nice lead-in.